Congratulations. What a thrill. It's an honor to have you here for your
Oh,
first time on
thank
Austin
you.
City Limits. I hope it was fun for you.
I love this show. Are you kidding? In the middle of the night when I'm flicking the channels and it's like in between the infomercials, then there's something, and there it is. It's Austin City Limits. Come on. I watch it all the time.
Let's talk about your new country album, Detour.
It certainly is.
You have crossed all of the musical lines over 30 plus years in your career. Why country and why now?
Um, because I still got teeth in my mouth, and I figure you may as well do what you want to do while you got teeth in your mouth, and you can still sing it. Um, I wanted to work with Seymour Stein since 1989. I grew under the radar, and so when I met Seymour Stein again, he wanted to work with me. I was kind of like, come on. He's one of the last guys. They don't have guys like that anymore in music. They just don't. A real A&R guy who knows a lot of different kind of music. Oh, there's a few, not a lot, that just knows songs and music and the history of music. Every time I do a new project, I study. I think, okay, I'm going to learn this and I'm going to learn that. And a lot of times I get there and realize, oh, wait a minute. I've been here before. Right, I used to listen to this. I know this. And in a way, that's what happened on this record. I mean, he sent me a lot of stuff, and he'd sing to me. He sent all these songs, and I started to go through them. I started to put it together the same way I thought about Kinky Boots. I thought it should have variety and keep people's interest. It should have a history. It should tell a story. And it should go by them without even knowing. So I started to put these songs together and play it low in the background while I was working with other people on other things and watch how the mood changed in the room unconsciously without saying anything. Put it low, just see how it worked. And the mood changed and they got happy. It was a happy feeling. So I thought, okay, this is a happy thing. Then it was a crapshoot whether, I was going to be good. I could have gone there and really stunk. In fact, the first song I sang, I sucked. I sucked so bad, I almost cried. I kept trying, and there was a song, Funnel of Love. And while I was singing Funnel of Love, I realized, wait a minute. I did this in Blue Angel. Of course I listened to Wanda Jackson all the time. That's how I learned how to sing. I cut my teeth on her music, She was the first rock singer. And so I connected with them, and I started doing call and response in the same way I did in the blues record. And I realized also that all the songs and the time period of the songs that I chose were in the same time period of the songs that I chose on the blues record. It was the same time period. And it was because that was the time that Seymour was talking about when blues and country were so related to each other, so integral. They crossed aisles all the time.
What is it about country songs in particular that appeals to you?
Oh, the stories and the ache in the voice, and that it is a little rock and roll. These things, even Patsy Cline, her rockabilly times, that was a big influence on me as a young rock singer. I mean, in 1979, I had a button, Patsy Cline button I wore all the time, right next to another button that said, almost famous, I'm nearly famous, or something like that. I grew up listening to these women on TV and on a radio station where they played everything because there was only 3 stations. I mean, what was there? And I felt really privileged to be able to be of a time where I could hear James Brown, Patsy Cline, and Elvis Presley and Loretta Lynn and the Supremes, and well, it was a little before Motown, but that action was happening together because there wasn't a lot. And I know they still had segregated stations, but not so much in New York. There were people that broke that barrier. And to me, that's how I listened to music. That's how I got my ideas. That's how I arrange. That's how I write. I hear it all playing at once in my head. And that's why I think it's like cooking. So you take a little James Brown, put that in there. You take a little Patsy Cline and put a little Loretta Lynn, because I loved Loretta Lynn's stories. I mean, she spoke about women's stories. There was nobody singing about the pill. I mean, when she sang about the pill, all of a sudden, as a young kid, like a teenager, you know, reading stories all the time in the paper of young women dying, and then she's singing about the pill, all of a sudden, I felt like she knew. She spoke up for us. She was one of us, you know? If you look at the time period, the only way, you know, that women, a lot of women married into what they would have liked to be. You know, I had an older cousin that went to college. I mean, I went to college anyway, hell's bells, even though I was told, what do you want to go to college for? You're going to get married anyway. And I said, really? Look at me. I'm a freak. Nobody's going to marry me. I'm one of the people should go to college and learn how to do anything. And so I just, I asked my cousin who went to college, and she was more normal. And I said, well, you know, what were you going to be? And literally, she said, be? I wasn't going to be anybody. I wasn't going to be anything. I was going to get married. And that just was like a knife in my heart, because I remembered what it was like watching my mom and my aunts wanting to be something and always being derailed and never being able to be what they wanted. And I guess that's what made me come out with boxing gloves, because I was like, yeah, this one's for her, this one's for my aunt, oh, here's one for Nana, boom, you know, because I just didn't want anyone else ever again. I just wanted to tear the wall down. And any wall now that comes up, and there's tons of walls, I always am thinking, okay, how's the way to get over that guy's shoulder who's the gatekeeper? There's a way. When there's a will, there's a way. Everybody tells you, you can't do this, you can't do that. Sure, I'm going to sing any kind of music I want, because I love music. It's all interrelated to me. It's not a foreign thing for me. I just call it a detour because I think it's kind of funny. I love the people that actually listen to me, my music, and they actually love my music. But if they actually know, I know that they know my music, and in all of the early work, they hear this stuff. I could never have sung Girls Just Want to Have Fun with those hiccups and yodels had I not known rockabilly and listened to country music and Hank Williams and Patsy Cline and, you know, Loretta Lynn. I couldn't have sung that stuff. It would have been different. She-bop would have sounded different. You know, of course, the subject matter, okay. But Loretta Lynn, you know, she wrote stuff like that.
But when Girls came out too, I mean, there was
Oh, they didn't know.
no people.
You know,
people
they
didn't
wanted
know.
it to be like Girls Just Want to Have Sex. And I was like, really? Let's take a little back step to that one, Pally, because that is not what it's about. And that's why I put, like the other thing was, oh, she's such a pain in the butt, because I wanted to have every race of woman in that video so that every little girl could see herself and know that she too was entitled to a joyful experience in life, and that freedom of spirit is not necessarily a bad thing or the devil or girls just want to have sex. It's more about an uplifting, joyful experience in life, a freedom of thought. You don't want to grow up with braces on your brains, you know? So that's why. And yes, it was pain. Everybody thought I was a big pain in the ass, but I didn't care. And you know, a lot of times they'd say to me, well, are you some kind of feminist? And I would say, Yeah, as a matter of fact, I burnt my training bra at the first women's demonstration at the Alice in Wonderland statue in Central Park. You got a problem with that? And they'd be like, you know, what are you supposed to do? And the young women that say they're not feminists and they're lawyers and they belong to a health club and they actually can go into a bar and buy a drink and they can buy a car and they have a job and they get paid and they have their own everything. Well, and they can vote. They wouldn't have any of that had it not been for the feminists or the suffragettes in the first place.
People take freedom for granted, don't they?
Yeah. Till they don't have it anymore. Then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, 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 you know. But that's why you have to pay attention. Be here now. Open your eyes. Know your history. If you know where you came from, you know where you're going. When civilizations would take over other civilizations, immediately what they would do is destroy everything, all their history, and take their new church and put it on top. So that the people, they would think, would have amnesia and forget everything. And I think you have to be aware. You have to be aware, you have to be alert, you have to educate yourself, learn.
How could it be true that you have never met Dolly Parton? Explain that.
I might have met her once in passing. I had so many opportunities when I was younger to actually be in movies. I had an opportunity to work with Mike Nichols, and I didn't know who the heck he was. And I had such a horrible experience in this one movie, not because the part of it was great, and then the other part of it was like, oh my God, let me die now. But Steel Magnolias was one of those things that I could have been in, wow. But I thought I was not a good enough actress, and I thought that, you know, if there were personality problems, not with Dolly, but, you know, I didn't want to go through that again. And I could have worked with her, but I didn't, you know.